Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for still being here with us this afternoon. We have a full session with lots of fantastic speakers joining us, and it'll end with our famous alto teenies this evening, so you have that to look forward to also. I wanted to especially thank Justin for being such a wonderful sport in co-hosting this panel with me. So just to give you a little context, a few weeks ago when we were discussing the agenda, we saw how many incredible speakers were going to join us, and we felt incredibly privileged. But something else that came up as we were having this conversation was how wonderful our attendees and our guests were. You know, experts from mobility, from business travel, from HR, from sustainability, from security, and so much more. And so we thought, what better way of ensuring we all benefit from the experience of our wonderful attendees than by turning this panel around and really making it about you, about your stories. So we really look forward to having a very interactive session and hearing from all of you. The way Justin and I are going to run this panel is very straightforward. A topic is going to come across the screen, and thank you to those of you who helped us actually select these topics. And we will then open up the floor. You'll have about a minute to share an experience or story with us. And just as a word of warning, I'm a little pregnant and a little emotional, and Justin is a little American and therefore a little emotional. So don't leave us up here by ourselves, and really please engage with us, because that's the only way to make this truly epic. So I think for the first one, Justin's gonna kick us off with our first topic.
You're gonna let me go? They just handed me these cue cards. The first one says, "Don't scare people." And then the second one said, "It's okay, just a little." So I guess I get to do a little bit.
Okay, so topic one, what's keeping you up at night? Justin.
You're gonna let me answer this?
Yes, I will.
Oh, okay. It's just after lunch, so I guess I will wake you up a little bit, maybe scare you a little bit. So I work in safety, accommodation safety globally. It's a scary world. What keeps me up at night, I probably won't share with you. I, unfortunately, see the worst of this industry. I see all the different incidents that happen. If you watch the news, those were business travelers who perished in the fire in Montreal a couple of months ago. They were just there on business travel. They didn't have egress. They didn't have a way out. No one told them that they should have been checking for that. The 3 travelers in Mexico City that died of carbon monoxide poisoning, they were on business travel. They didn't know to check and see if there was carbon monoxide alarms. And so it's education and awareness that keeps me up at night and makes me think, what can we do better in this industry to focus on the first and most important thing? I came over here a couple days early and I went up north. The UK has an incredible reputation when it comes to safety, and those of you who live here and travel here, I mean, I want those cool pants with the reflective stuff. We don't have those in the States. And as we're here listening, I've heard sirens all day. I think you have too. You might even tune them out. I was just in Zanzibar last month doing a safety project there. And while I was there in a city of 1 million people, I didn't hear a siren, not one. And a day went by before I finally connected. I'm like, I'm not hearing any sirens. And so I asked somebody, I'm like, why are there no sirens in this city? What's going on? And they're like, what are you talking about? I'm like, ambulances, fire trucks? Yeah, we don't have those. What happens if someone gets hurt here? Well, we help them, I guess. We don't take a focus enough to understand that safety is different all around the world. Back in the US, there's an admiral who I'd really admire, and I recommend all of you read this book. I think it applies so much to what we're doing, not just with safety, but with sustainability and being smart about the growth that we're doing in this industry. And it's called Make Your Bed. If anybody's never seen it, you go on YouTube, there's a video. And this admiral speaks at different colleges, and he says the first thing you need to do every day is make your bed. Because once you've completed that task, it makes it easy to continue and move throughout the day. And so I think that that's something that we need to do, and we've skipped in this industry when it comes to safety. We have a huge problem with human trafficking. We haven't done enough to focus on handicap accessibility and making sure that people who are staying in the properties that we offer, the accommodations are safe. And so if we can go back to those basics and solve that, because that is a solvable problem, it will make everything else that we're trying to do achievable once we've knocked that out of the way. And so I have 2 tips for you here today that will help me sleep better at night. One, remember, they do not make off-white smoke alarms. They're made pure white. If you see a yellow smoke alarm, that means it's outdated, it's old, it needs to be replaced. Put that out in your businesses, put that out to your travelers, make sure they're keeping an eye out for that. And number 2 is you want to make sure that you do a full scan of the accommodations you stay in, and it's okay to speak up and say, I don't feel safe here, and talk to somebody about it. I did it last night in the hotel I was staying in, and I got a free night's stay, so it worked out pretty well. It wasn't an AltoVita accommodation. But don't be afraid to speak up. So I kept it dull. I didn't want to scare you too much, but definitely, there's a big focus on safety that I recommend you all take on.
Great, thank you, Justin. And that's now it from the 2 of us. So if you'd like to raise your hand if you have anything that's keeping you up at night. Great, thank you.
First of all, congratulations on the pregnancy. I was a bit nervous to go after Justin because that's a pretty cool story. In terms of what keeps me up at night, other than the fun stuff I can't really talk about here, the thing is change. Our industry is going through so much change. Every day it could be your staffing that needs changing in terms of how they're working from a mobility perspective, our clients, the sort of things they're asking us for. And it can be daunting sometimes. You think, oh my God, there's so much going on. But at the same time, I always believe, use it as an opportunity. So my view on life as it is, the only constant is change. So I hope that's okay. Sort of short and sweet, but that's my point.
How about anybody over here?
We're standing up? Okay. So Charlotte, with a bright approach, I'm delighted to be here, invited by Vivi and the team. I've followed these guys since the early inception, so it's wonderful to see how things are coming together, and thanks for having me. And I was thinking when you were talking that mine doesn't sound very dramatic now because you've laid it out to us what really we should be maybe more worried about. But one of the things that, if not keeps me awake, it's the speed with which things move on. I'm also older than most in this room, I'm sure. And I was talking to a gentleman earlier on, and it's as if we've skipped almost a generation when it comes to the speed of technology hitting us. And every day there's something to take into consideration. But luckily I have kids that are in their late teens, and I listen and look at them. And that would maybe be a bit of advice from me to everybody. And I'm somebody who works in travel tech, and I'm still overwhelmed by the speed of it.
Thank you so much. And I think I saw a hand over here earlier. Yeah.
Hi, Stuart Lawson from Crown Worldwide. The thing that's kind of keeping me awake at the moment right now is the Norwegian Transparency Act. You might know something about that, Jason, but this is all about human rights, and you mentioned trafficking and human labor. A big focus, the next focus coming down the line, I think. We've had health and safety, we've had data privacy, we've had modern day slavery, and this is very much linked to it. This is what's keeping me up at night, and I guess the concern that corporate clients around the world think that we as an industry can solve all these problems. There's almost an expectation that it's now our problem now, and we've got to address it. And we do. We have to find ways in which we can improve everything that we do in all of these areas. But I guess it's all of those risks. So I'm absolutely aligned with what you were saying. And when I work in an operation where people, they're looking for the best option, maybe the lowest cost option, not always the best option. I find myself continuously reminding people that there are companies out there who have higher expectations of us as a company and as an industry.
Great, thank you. We might have time for one more on this topic, if anyone else would like to volunteer. Otherwise, we can move on.
We've got one over here.
Hey, how's everyone doing? What keeps me up at night is probably the increase of cybersecurity threats that we're seeing on a day-to-day basis. I know someone mentioned data privacy, but unfortunately cybersecurity is a massive thing nowadays. Organizations, whether it's ransomware attacks or the data loss, or even being kicked out of their own systems, it's an growing problem that we all need to fix, and the best way to do that is by keeping our systems safe and secure, making sure we listen to the right specialists and get rid of all those vulnerabilities as much as we can. Thank you.
Awesome, great, thanks. The pressure to reduce carbon and pressure to reduce costs. Wow. I was thinking about this on my flight over, looking out at the jet engine and how much carbon I was burning to come here. So hopefully it's good that I'm here. What about this? What does this mean for our industry? Does anybody?
Thank you so much. Hello, everyone. Sarah Whiting from Thrust Carbon. Pressure to reduce carbon and pressure to reduce costs. What does this mean for our industry? I'm hoping it means that we can all evolve. I think the travel industry needs to evolve to lean into as much technology as we possibly can, because we all want to continue to enjoy the benefits, both in our businesses, but also personally, of travel. And we don't want to feel that we're responsible for, the sort of decline of our environment. So I think that the main thing I would say is companies like, obviously, Thrust Carbon and AltoVita are taking technology and data seriously so that we can accurately calculate and ultimately reduce our emissions, so that that ticking time clock sort of starts to slow down a little bit and we can all enjoy travel for a little bit longer. So hopefully that helps.
That's great. Who else?
I'm going to stand up, if that's okay. My name is Bex Debman. I'm also Travel Respect, so there's someone else losing sleep over it as well, I promise you. I just wanted to talk a little bit about this because I'm talking to corporates quite a lot, and ever since I got into the travel industry, it's always been about cost reduction. Carbon reduction has been around for about 25 years, but we're only really taking it seriously as an industry in the last sort of 5 years. The bit we're scared about is the reduction. And this is the bit we need to talk about really as an industry, because we need to show our travellers how to travel better and how to travel wiser and how to reduce. And as an industry, we could lead in that space. We've got access to data as a travel management company or as an RMC. You've got access to data to see how people are travelling. We're just not using that data very wisely. And what our clients need is advice as to how they can do better. I was really hopeful that after the pandemic, when we all stopped travelling, and we learn, and I'm talking from the travel industry, I know that we want people to travel, it's how we earn money, but there's got to be a better way of doing this, and there's got to be more sort of consultancy to clients, because actually after the pandemic, we all just jumped on planes again, and we didn't reconsider what we were doing, even though we had learned to work in different ways. I'm not anti-travel. There is a really good reason to travel, and there are really good times to do it, but as an owner of my own business, I haven't met any of my clients in person yet, and it isn't stopping me from doing business. We need to just think about it differently, that's all. There's a time for it, but I don't think it's as scary as everyone thinks it is to start talking about reduction.
That was great. I feel like this is a passionate topic. You guys jumped up quick. Who else? Another hand? I'll come over here real quick first. Ladies first.
Hi, thanks. Yeah, I just wanted to add to the last two commenters on this. My name's Tess. I work for Sabre in comms and sustainability, and my former role was at Travelist, which was a coalition of some of the big OTAs coming together to calculate the emissions data from our flights. And I just wanted to add that I think it really is incumbent on our industry to start really making progress in this, and we have the opportunity. Business travel can move things along, and so it's about, we talked earlier in the day about empowering people, and it's about empowering travelers, empowering travel managers, giving them the information, the sustainability information that's kind of consistent and accurate, coming together potentially with some radical collaboration so we can move this forward. Thanks.
Thank you, Tess. I'm sorry, at lunchtime you actually shared a story with us that was, I think, a very visual image of it hitting you. Do you mind sharing that here again?
Sure. So I've been an expat for 10 years, just returned back to the UK about 3 years ago. I think it was just really living in countries like Kenya and Jordan. Jordan is one of the most water scarce countries in the world that really got me thinking about sustainability and my own water use, because when there's a tank on your roof and when you have a shower, it's literally, the levels going down. It really makes you consider things a lot more. So I think that was really what got me into sustainability, was living in some of these countries that are feeling the effects of climate change right now. So yeah.
Hello there. Andy Conduit Turner from Carter's here. Looking at the question we have up on the board, pressure to reduce carbon, pressure to reduce costs. It's like asking people if they want pizza or ice cream. The answer is yes, both please. And the reality is that it's about talking about and sometimes looking at the long-term piece, the hard decisions that we have to make, sometimes to make a more sustainable decision to reduce carbon. In the short term, it's about having direct conversations about directly costs may go up initially, but then by supporting the more sustainable methods, by actually steering the course and actually incentivizing businesses that provide sustainable solutions, those costs become the norm and then reduce over time. So it's about having that long-term vision, working with our clients, our partners, our suppliers as well. It's about looking long-term, looking across the board and actually finding the correct balance that can serve us in the long term.
I love that. Sustainability sells. Do we have time for any more?
Maybe one more?
One more quick one. Someone has something passionate they want to share quickly? There we go.
Yeah, so I'm David Wright from Mansley Service Department, so speaking on an operator's point of view. So I've just done our company's sustainability assessment through green tourism, but also voluntarily doing our first carbon reporting project. And I think that once you drill down into all the information that maybe you don't normally look at, like kilowatt hours, units used, employee commuting habits, distances traveled, that you realize possibly actually that maybe, and I'm sure everyone is guilty of this a bit, that you're a little bit wasteful. So then once you're analyzing all the data so much, that I think actually in looking how to reduce carbon, you can actually reduce costs through being more efficient, finding technologies that are available to save energy, save water. So I think that it's not one or the other. I think they can work hand in hand if you just drill through the data enough.
Great, thank you so much. So on to our next topic, which is very topical for June, because June, of course, is Pride Month. Is enough being done to integrate and support the LGBTQIA plus community by all of us in our industry? Or maybe we can rephrase, what else can we do if... Danny, I think is...
Danny.
Hi, I'm Danny Pryor, the Partner Onboarding Manager at AltoVita. Diversity is incredibly important to me, Pride Month even more so, as an out lesbian. And there's definitely a lot more that can be done in the industry and company-wide as a whole. The use of pronouns, there's a whole scalable thing that we can do with that. A lot of companies are adding it to like their emails and their communication, but also there's certain things that can be done in terms of contracts, making sure that those are inclusive terminology, gender neutral bathrooms we're talking about on a property specific level. That's incredibly important, both on an office setting and also on an operator wide perspective in terms of the property. There's loads more that can be said, but I will leave it at that.
Thank you so much, Danny. I think there was another hand here.
Thank you. I totally agree. My name is Sherry Said. I work for the Alto Partners on business travel, so the other aspect of the immigration, social security, and so on. And I work a lot on diversity and inclusion. And I really like this question, but what does it integrate? Like, I've been working in global mobility for 10 years, and in the majority of cases, we don't even ask people. We don't have anything in policies or any kind of inclusion. We don't even know when people are LGBTQIA+. So all of our offerings, all of our discussions, all of our security concerns, for example, I used to work with Africa a lot, and people wouldn't even know that it was illegal for them to go there, or they could face problems. And many times I just found out that these people had a spouse from the same sex or had children or whatever by pure chance. So yeah, I do think it may be enough to integrate them, but we're not even in the initial stages, in my opinion.
No, great points.
Thank you. And I think there was a hand here, right?
Hi, Blaise Baracino with Pinterest. I just wanted to say we're adding in culture training or assimilation for our domestic relocations for purposes like this, because state to state things are so different. So we want people to feel comfortable from the DEI perspective.
Thank you. I can't believe even state to state. That's really unexpected, but makes sense. Next topic then.
This one's mine. Relocation or long business trips can lead to loneliness and impact the mental health of employees. Last night they brought me in. They saw I was by myself, getting a little lonely. It was good. Who wants to tackle this one? All the way down there on the behind me.
Ladies first.
Shelley Crofts from BAE Systems, so great to see you all here. I'm really proud to work for a business that genuinely is incredibly paternalistic in the way that it supports its employees. From certainly a kind of a UK perspective, being an employee, there are multiple employee resource groups. There's a lot being done around mental health. There's a lot of conversation about mental health. We have kind of employee apps. We have the Unmind app. It's a conversation that we've just gone through in our team, actually, to make sure that we're looking after the mental health and opening up that conversation. And I think this question causes me to reflect, how much are we doing actually in the mobility world to understand the different challenges? Because everybody recognizes that not only for employees, but also the families as well. So the families are going through huge change. We heard earlier, it's one of the biggest life-changing moments that you can have as a family. What more can we do to understand the impact of that and understand and extend even simple things, understand the systems and the technologies? Can they still access the apps that they had from the UK support perspective? Can they still get access to those when they're overseas, perhaps on different systems? There are probably some quick fixes to just extend out what we offer in the UK to make sure it is genuinely global. Then I think that what's interesting is some of where the industry is headed at the minute in terms of wearable technology and obtaining data in kind of the health and safety of employees. So I know there are a number of individuals and companies out there who are looking at monitoring the health of individuals through technology, wearable tech, to then help obtain the data that will help drive what is it that these employees want. Having said all of that, one of the things we're doing in my team is actually developing and establishing a couple of roles segregated just on experience and building out and giving people the time. So we have one employee experience lead and one family experience lead where they will just have the time to reach out and speak to people, make phone calls, continue that kind of human touch. So there's the technology, there's the access to the systems, there's a hell of a lot of help out there. But actually, sometimes it's reaching out, it's buddying systems, it's what networks can we help create for people when they're going to new locations.
Hi, I'm Andy Cairns from Ravel. I'm in the business of business travel loneliness, hopefully this will make sense. So I was a management consultant for about 25 years. I spent a lot of time on the road. And a lot of time of that alone in hotel rooms, service apartments. Obviously, in those days, we didn't have anything as nice as AltoVita apartments to stay in. With business travel, there tends to be a lot of focus on either the travel itself. Will I move over here? Would that help? Yeah. on the travel itself or the meetings, and there's not really that much focus on what people do after the meetings have finished. So what we tend to do is either go straight to the bar and drink all night, or go back to the hotel room and eat that terrible room service burger and watch CNN because it's the only English channel. Or we work all the way through the night. And that to me is one of the biggest problems with business travel, is just that isolation, that loneliness. And I think one of the things we can do to help is just recognise that you're not working for 24 hours while you're on a business trip, that you do have that time at the end of the day. And one of the things that we really need to do is start connecting with other human beings and get
All right, this is the big one. I wrote everything everything that I said earlier with Chat GPT. No, I didn't, but I thought about it. So how has Chat GPT and AI impacted the travel and mobility industry? Is there any, first real quick, by show of hands, who in here is using Chat GPT right now? That's about half, a little more than half. It's actually, I thought it'd be more. You should try it out, those of you who haven't. Who wants to tackle this one?
Hello, I'm Beth from Breezeway. As probably most of you know, Breezeway is pretty on it when it comes to ChatGPT and AI. Thinking about how it will influence the travel industry and corporate accommodation, probably specifically, as we're here with AltoVita, every question that we've had so far will be influenced by chat. The conversations we had earlier about finding the right accommodation for someone at the right price that is sustainable. If you had the right data that is being analysed in the right way, you will get the right recommendations for that individual. Do they want to be on the top floor? Do they need a ground floor apartment? Do they need a garden? What is going to make them most productive? If they're lonely, shall we put all of them together in one area? You can use data and the ChatGPT to do that. Finally, for cost saving, we can also use it to make sure that if there is the option to ship something later for someone's move to take place at a slightly different time, ChatGPT would be able to tell you when is the peak season, when is the low season, giving you as a business the opportunity to get the same service, but at a lower price. So I suppose that's a long-winded way of me saying that it's going to impact everything, and by 2024, not 2025, it's probably even impacting it now. Pretty much everything is going to be impacted, but in a positive way. I'm a very pro.
Ian?
Hi, Ian Jones from Festive Road. So I have two experiences with AI and ChatGPT in particular. So I was lucky enough to go to Japan earlier this year for work. And I worked with a travel agency in Japan, and they are using ChatGPT, I can never get the acronym right, very effectively for doing concierge for high net worth individuals, younger high net worth individuals who don't want to interact with humans, believe it or not. And they've used the platform really successfully as a kind of Q&A chatbot type thing to help people with their concierge service. But more recently, I've used AI really effectively for video editing. So video editing is one of the most tedious things you can do. You know, anyone here that's in travel and mobility, we all like to produce great content and get it out there. So you have 2 hours of content which you need to squeeze down into 10 minutes. I used AI to annotate the whole thing, and then I highlighted the text that I wanted to keep. My video editor also had an AI-enabled tool, and we were able to do the video editing in half the time. So although everyone's very frightened of AI and the various tools, I think there's some really positive things that can come from it that make life a lot simpler. So video editing is incredibly tedious, but actually it made it really pleasurable and quite simple and straightforward and a lot more cost-effective, and I could focus my time on other things.
Wow, that's great. I think I saw Brad, did you? Yeah, I've been anxious to hear from you today, Brad.
Last one, Brian, over to you.
Well, Brian, excuse me.
Yeah, I'm just passionate about ChatGPT and AI and what it's
going to do. And there's a lot of stuff that's coming down the road right here, right now, which is going to affect all of us. One of which is Microsoft are launching a product called Copilot. If you haven't seen it, Google it and check it out. But that's going to allow you to take, for example, you go to a meeting, you've got notes of the meeting in a Word document, and then say, okay, turn that into a pitch deck for my client, and it will just do it. Okay, I mean, that's the sort of stuff. All those Microsoft products will be linked together, and you'll be able to combine them. Or another thing that's coming out, and we're using that live in, certainly I'm involved in, I'm investor in AltoVita, I'm investor in Benevo, and it's being used in the Benevo technology, is a thing called sentiment analysis. And that's, if you don't know sentiment analysis, again, Google it and you'll read about it. But what that does is that reads the tone of your email or listens to the tone of your telephone conversations. So let's say you're moving 1,000 people a year and you want to know who's happy, who's not happy, or which supplier is performing well and which supplier is not performing well. Well, this will read the tone of the email and then score them to say, well, actually, that's an 8 out of 10, that's a 5 out of 10. So this technology is there. And it's, in some cases, it's in beta. In some cases, it's live. But as Beth said, by the end of 2024, if not earlier, you're going to be using this technology. It is scary and it is super exciting. Someone once said, when's all this change going to end? And the answer is, it's not. It's only just beginning. So yeah, here's to a great 23, 24, and 25.
Thank you so much, and thank you to all of you. I think this topic, we're going to continue hearing about this afternoon, luckily, so it's not the end, but the beginning. Enjoy. Thank you.